Good evening, everyone. I want to thank Dan and the Wild Poppies and everyone else who's been involved with putting this together. This is an exciting topic to ask, why do you love the struggle? Because for so many who've been in the struggle for a while, some of us get burnt out. And sometimes we don't understand why. And it's only because we get pushed and pushed, because this system is always creating something. If you're like me or most of you out here that want to fight against the system, you can't get tired. But there are those who, sometimes have to take a break. So for those who do, I still admire those folks. Let's give them time to come back and get themselves together. But this struggle will burn you out because they don't quit this capitalistic system that we live in. I want to thank Ashanti for being here and explaining the Black Liberation Army, because when I talk about my dad is Russell Maroon Shoatz, and he was in the Black Liberation Army. And some people that I speak with who are educated about the Black Liberation Army think they were doing something that was so out of order, which what they really started out doing was, as Ashanti said, was to free their comrades from prison. But before that, it was just the Panthers going in their community, their love for their people, create their own programs, in which we didn't have to ask this government for anything. When they were attacked, that's when a BLA was created and had to stand up to fight against the attack and to protect the people in their communities. I often ask my dad, so this goes to why I love the struggle now, because before I didn't. I didn't love the struggle, and I was questioning my dad as a youth, why did you leave your family? And he would, you have heard me say this before, it was because of the love for my people. My people were being brutalized here in Philadelphia by Rizzo and some wicked cops that still to this day you would think he was here and leading these cops on that exist today. But at that time I couldn't understand. And this is why now I look to the youth to educate them, because if you're not educated in what this system is about and the evil monster that Ashanti talks about, you're like programmed. It's hard to believe that this system we live in would do things to hold you down, to keep you where you are, to make money off of you, to house prisoners, to look at schoolyards now and look at our kids in the schoolyard and calculate how many of those little kids they can arrest in the future. It wasn't until early on I realized that I started to understand what my dad's meaning about my fight for my people. I started hanging around folks. My dad told me to inquire about people like Pam Africa and Ashanti, and then he was telling me there's some young white folks on Baltimore Avenue. And I was real confused then. Remember, I got educated now. But that time I wasn't, so I was confused. Like, I thought that was your whole fight, was against brutality and white America. And he said, no, but these people are conscious people. So for a long time, I still didn't go around those people who are some of my best friends now. My brother took the first approach. And once he came back and told us, yeah, these folks really are educated about the struggle, not only in the Black community, but throughout this country, throughout the international world. The war on Muslims now, Palestine and Israel, it's one thing after another. I was then educated by the folks on Baltimore Avenue and people like Pam. My dad had got sick behind bars. And I would call the prison and I said, my dad needs cataract surgery. And they would say, well, he has to go blind first. And I said, how do you go blind first? Well, don't you try to save the eye and get the cataract? Oh, no, no. You have to go blind first. And I would challenge them. That's right. Be only because I was passionate enough, which I have heard them tell folks things like this and they just accept it. But I was on the train the next morning to Camp Hill to talk to the Pennsylvania prison chief of staff. And it was in writing. It was in his directive. And there were a whole lot of other injustice, medical injustice. And I said, can I look at more of this stuff? He let me look at a little, but not much. But there was so much other stuff going on that I started creating petitions. Didn't have a clue on what to do. And that's when I go to some of my folks on Baltimore Avenue, some of the, what I would call early on, white folks on Baltimore Avenue that I thought didn't have a clue. But it was people like Pam that took me by the hand one day and drove me all over North Philly where I could lead petitions. That's love in a struggle.
That's right.
Because I thought, this woman is crazy. Does she think I'm going to go drive from here to here and here? She said, if you want to save your father's life, this is what you need to do. You got to make people aware. The same way I was unaware. The same way a lot of people in my community are unaware. This is why once I became conscious about the struggle, I brought my son to every meeting. He's 22 now. He don't. But he has a ground base. That's right. He has a ground base. He comes to me now with literature and mandates me to sit and watch Link television, which, you know, I love Link television, but I was shocked that he was so open and aware. So that's the love. My father had 7 children, and this is where we talk about love and the struggle. Once again, 7 children, only 3 of us are conscious enough to fight on his behalf. The other 4, one was a police officer for several years. Don't deal with my father. I heard another one say one time, someone said, oh, you're Russell Shoatz, how is he doing? That's your father. And she said, all I know is he's a killer. So when you talk about, which he's not a killer, we noticed, well, for those of you who don't know, he's been accused of killing a cop, but that's a long story. I'm going to stick to the love and the struggle, but he wasn't the guy who pulled the trigger. We know who did it, but my dad is the type that he loves the struggle so much he won't tell. He's not going to tell. Because when we were approached about 9 years ago for him to get a new trial, it was to testify against the trigger man, but yet my dad wouldn't have been released. So then Daddy said, well, will I be put into population? They said no. He said, well, this is the kind of injustice. You know, he told the detectives, this is my name, that's my number, I'm ready to go back to my cell. Now that's what you talk about being in struggle. He could have sat down there and gave them all kind of lies of what they wanted to hear, but he didn't, because the injustice would have still been there. Russell also has a sister. My father, oldest sister, was the first black mayor of Willingboro, New Jersey. This is where we talk about love and the struggle. She doesn't know the struggle. She didn't even want to know him while she was mayor. She's a Republican, and she's real hand-in-hand close with the Bushes. And I called her recently because her daughter's an attorney. Her other daughter is an ophthalmologist, which will give me some little information, the doctor, when something's going wrong with my dad's eye. But that's just a little bit. The attorney doesn't want anything to do with my dad, nor does his sister. That was the first black mayor of Willingboro. I told her recently we're doing a launch to have Russell, released into population. He's been in solitary confinement 20 plus years with no infraction. She said, well, where would they release him to? Or why would they, you mean they want him to come home? Now this is his sister, so she doesn't know about the struggle. She's been brainwashed, as many as I was. I just want to say that with the struggle, it's like family.
Yes.
Because I don't know, I know some of you, but if you're here and you have taken a lead or you're fighting against injustice, you're like family to me, because we're all fighting for the same thing.
That's right.
Now, I noticed with the Occupy thing, I was down there every day at City Hall, and I was walking with posters and stuff like that, and I was hearing that there was some racism there. I said, how can this be? I mean, here we got college students talking about they can't financially pay off student loans. There are no jobs. They're being exported over to China. I think we have experienced injustice a long time ago, black folks, and now, for some reason, it's come full circle and we all can't fight on that same level. Wouldn't we be stronger on the same page? If I look at you at family, it's because we're fighting a struggle against the same capitalistic system. Now, when you look at the media this week, Zimmerman has been arrested, right? Second-degree murder. Now, when you look at the other part of this law that's in Florida, where you can stand your ground and shoot someone, did you see how many corporations pulled out from Alex this week? Now, how the hell was Alex making judicial decisions of creating laws that we were following and all that were put in place? These stand your ground laws, and all these corporations now want to step back. Oh, this young boy got killed. Even he was supposed to have some Skittles in his hand. So now they have backed out. The Skittle maker, who makes Skittles? Mars. But that just shows you that we got a big task to do. Because it was all hidden, or some of you may have known, I didn't know Alex had that much power, or that the money and the corporation who are backing some of this stuff, and they lay low, undercover. And meanwhile, we're purchasing these products that are going to laws that, like this, stand your ground. So I'm going to conclude on that. I just want to tell you that to keep fighting, keep lobbying. I'm waiting for Occupy to step back, to come forth again. We have freed Mamiya from death row.
That's right.
That is a task in itself. You know, these people had to bow down because they said, wait a minute, these folks are not going to give us, we got to give them something. So they gave us that. But you got to keep fighting so we can get the release of all our political prisoners. If you see that they back down, they said, oh, we give them a little step. You know how they do with this boy Trayvon being murdered, and people came out in masses to march. They said, well, you got to give them a little something. Or they'll say, this government thing, let them march. Let them go ahead and march. Maybe they'll get it out their system. They'll go back home. But no, you don't stop. See, that's the thing. You don't stop. So I love you. I love the movement. And let's not stop.